My name is Trey Mangum, and this is Shadow and Act's opening act. Each week, we sit down with some of your favorite Black creatives in Hollywood to discuss how they made it in the entertainment industry. This week, we're sitting down with Amber Riley. She's most known for her role as Mercedes Jones on Glee, as well as several other projects. She also recently released her EP, Riley, and she's in development on an NBC series called Dream, which she is starring in and executive producing. We asked Amber about her very first job in the business, which is actually how she landed her agent.
What is my earliest thing in Hollywood? You know, I think the earliest thing that I can remember in Hollywood is I was a part of this program, All About Kids. It's actually how I got my agent. And we did Midsummer Night's Dream, Shakespeare. And I played Hermia. And that was my first taste of being a leading lady. Even though I was young, you know, I was a leading lady. And I think the lesson that taught me is I can be a leading lady, even if it in Hollywood and how I look at it right now, that may not be so, but one day, you know, that was my first taste into the industry. And so I kind of held on to that and have been stubborn about it the whole, you know, my whole entire career.
Yes. And speaking about Glee, it's one of the first shows that I remember, I guess, being so deeply embedded in pop culture, especially in the social media age, because I remember, like, I think I was like in early, late high school, because it was on for so long. I think even maybe a little bit of college. But I think that it was the point in time where people were getting to engage with shows on social media. I think it may have been a little bit earlier before. Like I think of live tweeting, I think of Scandal. I think that was that trigger, but I do still think that a lot of fans were engaging, and then people creating stan accounts, stan Twitters and Tumblrs and things like that, all about the show. So when you first started on Glee, did you think it would leave such an impact in pop culture in the way that it did?
I absolutely didn't. I didn't. I really didn't. I knew when I read the script, I felt like the show was very special, and either people were going to get it or they weren't. You know what I'm saying? And it was kind of like the first show about that to me that highlighted being different, misfits, different, what people consider to be different. So I think that we spoke to a specific type of audience, and that's why it became so big, because that audience really hadn't been highlighted or spoken to in such a specific way, in deliberate way. It was deliberate, you know. But I absolutely did not think, because it was when the pilot came out, the show wasn't even out yet. They literally showed an early release of the pilot. We hadn't even filmed a whole entire season. They showed the early release, and I was on my way to Australia 2 months later to do a signing just from the pilot, not the season, not the first, just the pilot. And so I was like, I have no idea what to expect, but I'm gonna be on this ride, I guess. And we'll see where it ends up.
You know, I don't think any show has impacted the music industry in the way that Glee did. I think they probably even rewrote some of the Billboard rules, because each week all of these Glee songs would be like in the top 10. Like you all these accolades and awards and making history week after week. I think when we look at the Billboard charts and history makers, you have Elvis Presley, you have Aretha Franklin, you have Drake, and you have Glee cast. So what do you think
Rihanna
about? Yes, Rihanna, can't forget her. But as far as the impact that it had on the music industry, why do you think that so many people resonated with these songs? I mean, the majority of them were covers. I know you had original songs like Loser Like Me and things like that, but why do you think that the music resonated with so many people?
They were already hits. Like I will always say this. in interviews, like, we did number one songs. Like, they weren't songs that people didn't know. We did number one songs that were a hit, and it shows how much they were a hit because they were reaching a new generation that hadn't heard these songs. People never heard, like, younger people didn't know Journey's Don't Stop Believing. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like what we did is added context and a story around the music, and it just made people connect to it even more. And also, I think that the producers did a really great job with the sound. Adam Anders and Alex Anders and Tim, like, they created this harmonious sound, and everybody loves choirs. Like, we know the world loves a choir, okay? And so it's just all of those elements put into one. I think it was inevitable for people to respond the way that they did.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I know I did. I know that, especially those Christmas versions. It would be like the perfect. It would be the perfect holiday. I remember, we would go to go off campus for lunch during high school, and those would be we would have the iTunes versions of the songs playing. It was just like, it was truly a pop culture phenomenon. And speaking about one of my favorite characters of all time, Mercedes on Glee, did you use a lot of your real life experiences when drawing inspiration to play this character?
I wouldn't say so. I feel like, on that show, Mercedes played a heightened version of sometimes a heightened version of a stereotype, and we know what that trope was. But I feel like the one thing that the show often did was, yes, we're going to show that, but we're also going to show what's behind it. So for me, I never felt like Mercedes got her full sex circle moment on that show to where I could have dug deeper and really showed who she was. But I do think that she got to show her emotion and what she can do through the music, which I'm always really grateful for, that I was able to display, that side of myself, like, in my music. Yes, I definitely put my heart into it. But as far as the character, not really. I people really don't believe this, but I'm an introvert. And I am a complete introvert. I am a homebody. I'm actually very shy. I do not crave attention. Like, I actually kind of despise it a little bit. Like, pay attention to me when I'm singing, but after I finish singing, please do not pay attention.
That's it after that. It's a wrap.
I'm out after that, but no, I feel like every actor kind of draws from some kind of experience to make it real for them. But I unfortunately, I don't think that I ever got that opportunity to really, really dig in deep.
And I do think that I feel like it was at a time where I feel like if Glee came out now, it would be a totally different show. Oh, yes. And I feel like things would be so different. But it's very indicative of the time that it was in. Definitely giving visibility and as far as like diversity, but then like looking at the actual diversity of the characters themselves as well. And I think that's definitely something that people still, like, I'll see tweets now, people talking about they're binging Glee like all these years later. And it's just interesting to think about how that would look like, now. But I don't even think there's a show that's going to even come toward the things that Glee accomplished during its time on television. It was definitely like that's like, this one in a million type, show with a legacy like this. So
yeah,
I love it though. I love it. And a few years ago, you were on Dancing with the Stars, and you won.
I did.
And I find it so interesting because there's so many reality competition shows out right now. What do you think people will be surprised to know about what goes into competing on a reality television show? But not only just that, but being a celebrity and competing on one as well.
Oh, I think that they'll be surprised to know like all the work that goes into it, because it's a lot of work, especially Dancing with the Stars. Like, actually, my season was the first season where they put a cap on how long you can rehearse. Because before they would be in there for 12 hours, and that's kind of how people started getting injured. But it's hard. It's really, really hard. Like, there were tears. Like, that happened. Like, it really was hard. And then you don't expect to care about it so much. Like, you go in thinking like, oh, okay, I'll do it. This should be fun. And like, when I was doing it, I was still filming Glee. Like, so I had to, I was still doing 2 different jobs at one time. But it ended up, it really changed my life. And I know people will probably see it just as a fun reality show, but there's so much exposing of yourself, doing something that you're not trained in front of the world. Like, it's a different confidence that you walk away with it. And I feel like every contestant that's been on there has said the same thing.
Yeah. And, you're definitely the definition of a multi-hyphenate. You do everything. And I know that you've been in theater as well. And you had the West End stint of Dreamgirls, won several accolades and awards from that. What's the biggest difference you think between acting on the stage and for the screen? What's the biggest difference that you would say?
Oh, man. Screen is more forgiving. You get a take 2, you get a take 3 on stage. You get it right the first time, and when you don't, you gotta shake it off and keep going. I remember I was well into the show, like maybe we're doing it every night for maybe 6 months, and there was just this there was this one time where I just could not remember the line. I just couldn't. I walked out and I was like, Dina. And the music is just going dun, 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 dun. And I'm just like, and Lacey, who played Dina, was just like, she's like trying to like give me the
get you back in there.
Telekinesis is like, it's this is it. And it was just, it was, I had to shake it off and come back and really do the thing. So that wouldn't be the highlight of my year doing that show. But yeah, I think in theater, you're a lot more naked and vulnerable, and, the connection with the audience is easier. But in television, on screen, you have to be able to, your performance has to reach people beyond a screen, and that is a little bit harder.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Like I miss going to Broadway now that the pandemic hit. I live in New York, and I was fortunate enough to see Ain't Too Proud before everything happened, and it was I went to go see it twice, and it's such a brilliant show. And I think that it took, I'm not gonna say it took the pandemic for it to happen, but so many people are appreciating watching theater now that we don't have the option to. And I think that people gain a new respect for, people who are in theater and people who do both screen and theater. And I think it's something that we need to think about when the world goes back to not normal, but a new normal, whatever that looks like, about how important theater is. And I think it's something that's kind of, screen kind of, takes up a lot of that space most of the time. But no, I definitely think that these projects are so important. Yeah,
Ain't Too Proud's big. I saw it before it went to Broadway.
Wow.
Out here at the Amazon, and it was just, I riveted the whole entire time. Everybody's performance was absolutely perfect. But yeah, I do think that theater, people are appreciating it more and more. And I feel like TV and film is dipping their toe into theater, and people are starting to realize the work that is behind it. Because it's even though you're doing the same thing, every night on a stage, to make that come alive and make it feel new every single night is not easy.
Yeah.
It's really not easy.
Yeah.
And you want that for the audience. You want them to not feel like you're just going through the motions. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to have that, this is the first show energy. That's what you want every single night. And I think people are starting to appreciate the work that goes into it.
This week's Black Entertainment Trivia Fact is: which film actor did not start his acting career on TV? Was it Eddie Murphy, Danny Glover, or Blair Underwood? Look out for the answer next week on ShadowAndAct.com. This summer, we went through this uprising amid the pandemic after several unarmed Black people were killed at the hands of police, and this movement spread to Hollywood. When I think about the traction that it gained, in around 2014, 2015, Black Lives Matter was kind of like a controversial statement to even say, and then now brands are using it in commercials. They're part of marketing, so it's a while to see how this has come so far. And I want to talk about how you started the unMUTEny movement last year. And I want to just talk about your inspiration for doing that. And also, have you seen any incremental changes in the industry since around the time period in which you started this?
I honestly, in private, yes. I've talked to producers. I got to even speak to the producers of our show, the creator of our show, Ryan Murphy, Brad Falchuk. Like, I even got to have a conversation with them about my feelings about, some of the things that would happen on set and what I feel like should happen moving forward on set. My ideas, and not only them, I've spoken to many producers. I just sold my first show, and that's a conversation that we're already having. Because of my experiences on set, it's really about mental health for me. People's mental health have to be protected at work, and when you're in an environment to where, as an actor, you're just vulnerable, and especially depending on what it is that what it is the role is. And so I feel like in Hollywood, there can be this kind of people are not products, and you can be treated like a product. But people have feelings and emotions and issues, problems, and I feel like Hollywood needs to take a better approach, and a more gentle approach with their actors. That doesn't mean coddling or anything like that, but there have been so many actors that we have lost to drug abuse, to suicide. There's so many that we have lost. And my whole reasoning for even starting unMUTEny was to, number one, tell stories, tell Black stories specifically about Black people's experiences in Hollywood, because some of these stories, you would think people made them up, but a lot of them came from people, that I know. I even just watched the interview with Deborah from Mad TV.
Yes.
That interview was crazy to me. Like, she was the reason that I watched Mad TV, and to know that her white male counterparts, also the white people that were coming behind her when she was an original on the show, creating original sketches, were getting paid more. And they didn't even care to discuss it, telling her that it wasn't even a discuss. The most iconic
like the iconic sketch show.
From Mad TV. I watch Mad TV every week, and the stuff that I remember was her Whitney Houston, her Oprah. You know, I remember her. So my reasoning for unMUTEny was to expose a lot of these stories and to give people the to feel protected and to feel that people were going to listen to them and to feel like there were people behind them wanting to, so they could share. And I'm still moving forward with it. You know, there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of things that I want to do with unMUTEny that I just don't want to speak about before it stops. But yes. You know, for the protection of Black people on these sets, my people, it's just my contribution to my community.
Yeah. So you brought up your show that you have in development called Dream. And it's so exciting. I know that when we reported on Shadow and Act, so many people were like, yes, I need to see this. Can you talk about how this project came about and what are you excited the most about? Like, I know the development process can be tricky, to say the least. I know it can be tricky to say the least, but I just would love to know what we can expect from this show that so many people are excited about.
Goodness. Okay, so the way that it came about was I did The Wiz and Craig Zaden and Neil Marin. Craig Zaden unfortunately passed away. We just clicked. They were the producers of The Wiz. They were also the first ones to ever offer me a role. Like, I thought I still had to audition for it. And I'm like calling my agent, like, when am I auditioning for it? And he's like, Amber, no. They offered it to me. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't know. But they, you know, they said they were big fans, and just on set we clicked, you know, and it's a special thing when you find producers or people to work with in this industry that really get you. And they said, we think that you're really funny, not even just from doing The Wiz, but like, you know, just being on set. Like, I had a smaller role in The Wiz, so I was just always just sitting on set talking shit and making people laugh. And they wanted to work with me, and I said, okay, I'm going to the UK for a year and a half to do Dreamgirls, and when I come back, let's, you know, hit the ground running. We hit the ground running when I came back. Pitched one show that didn't work out, and then we met Lisa Muse Bryant, had a meeting with her. Her and I are we have to be related. We're convinced that we're related. She's an incredible writer. She had the story of her cousin who had a baby at 13 and has now grown up and had to figure out her life later on. And so it is a coming of age story, but it's a coming of age story for a 35-year-old woman who grew up, you know, with her mom being under her mother's thumb because of one mistake that she's made. And so what it is it's her progression as a woman now. Her son was raised with her as a brother. So now that he's graduated from college and he's out the house, they're forming a mother-son bond, and her trying to figure out what it is she wants to do with her career, her dating life. You know what I'm saying? What is she into? She doesn't know. She never dated. Like, she doesn't have, like, you know, so it's all of those things that you normally would see with a 15 or 16-year-old. You'll be seeing with Dream at 35 years old, figuring it out, you know? So it's been an amazing journey. So grateful to NBC and Universal, because they've been with us this whole entire ride, trying to get the script together, and the development process has been tough.
I can only imagine.
Because you care so much, you know, and but I really believe in the project, and I'm excited. I know that the world will love it, and I'm singing on it too. So I get to be musical also. So it's everything that I've wanted. I've wanted to be a leading lady, and just knowing that it's possible, it's hard for me to go back to it'd be hard for me to go back to anything else, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm really excited just about the journey in general.
And knowing that, you are a producer on this project and you are in this, capacity in order to have, say and change and whatever in the production and development of the show, is there anything that you are doing or plan to do in your role as a producer that you have not seen in projects that you have been a part of before? Like, what would you do in this capacity in order to set things up or just better the show in general?
I mean, like I was talking about earlier. Now, I've been a part of some really dope projects. Like when I did worked with Tyler Perry, his team is amazing. They take care of their actors. Working with Tiffany Haddish, working with Tika Sumpter and Amari Hardwick, like it was such an amazing set to be on. So I've been on sets where I feel like, so I'm not saying like every set is like that. Every job that I've been, I'm not saying every job, but specifically on Glee, because it is you create a family, because I was seeing them more than I saw my own family. And they are my family. They're like brothers and sisters. We talk all the time, we check on one another as much as possible. But I think for me, it's the experience that I had playing Effie on Dreamgirls and being the leading lady on that show and being a leader. There was never any drama, because it starts at the head.
Yeah.
It really does. You set a precedence. And for me, I just want to take care of the actors. That's really important to me as a producer, to take care of the actors, to make sure our writers are respected, to make sure that everybody is being respectful, creating an atmosphere where everyone feels safe to do their best work. Because when you create that type of atmosphere for the people that you work with, or people that work for you, however it is you want to say it, they tend to work better. They tend to work harder, because they know you care, so it makes them care. So for me, it's just, as a producer, make sure we have the best, the best content, the best writers, the best show that we possibly can put together, but also treating every human that is on that set like they matter and like they're important and like they can be heard. Like, that's really important to me as a producer.
And speaking about your music that you put out not too long ago as Riley, love it so much. What has been the experience of, being just solely a singer? Because you've been an actor and singing along for so many projects in your career so far, but this was kind of like your major foray into strictly singing. So what's that experience been like? And also, how did you get to the decision of releasing this music as Riley instead of Amber Riley?
Oh man, so many feelings when it comes to this EP. I'm an independent artist. I'm not signed to a label. So for me, it was me finally investing in myself and not being fearful. And it took a lot. Like, I was in therapy. I went through a really hard time with my mental health, dealing with depression and anxiety. And this project was birthed out of that. Going to therapy helped me name my feelings and emotions. It helped me understand myself even better. And so I was able to go into the studio and be super honest about where I was in life and what I felt. And I think that's why the EP is done so well. People have felt that. I've had people that were like, and the reason I changed my name, not even changed it, it's still my name, it's my last name. But the reason I changed it is because of comments like this. Oh man, I wasn't expecting that from the girl from Glee. I needed to put a name to the persona that people didn't know. They didn't know me. And this music introduced the world to who Riley is. And it's funny because a lot of my friends call me Riley anyway. especially my male friends, probably because of sports, I guess. But they'll be like, "Hey, Riley," like it was just natural to me. And like, I have my awesome, amazing manager. She had the idea to like kind of change it up and like maybe a new name, maybe, something different, because it's not that I created a persona. It's that this is who I am. And so I wanted people to get to know me and give me a chance. And not everything that I've done as Amber Riley has kind of been a character and for television, but I wanted people to get to know the real me and give it a chance. And maybe if they saw Riley, some people could see, oh, Amber Riley, oh, I, been there, I already know that. Instead they're just like, well, let me let me listen to see what she's talking about. Let me, Yeah. And that was the whole thought behind it.
And viewers have seen you on screen and on stage and singing for over a decade at this point. What is one thing that if you could go back in time and tell the young Amber who was just starting out as Mercedes on Glee, what advice would you give yourself that you've learned over the years and have known to be true now?
Oh, trust your gut. Trust your gut. Trust your intuition. Know what you're getting into before you get in it and accept the decision that you make. That is what I would tell myself, because oftentimes, like, we have so many expectations and we're not present. We don't go for the ride. We don't, accept the situation for what it is. And I can give my example, just being on Glee. I had so many expectations. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I was just excited to be there. But honestly, as time went on, it's okay. It's okay if that's not your moment, if you're not meant to be the star for now. Be okay with paying your dues. Do the best job that you can do that you have so that you are undeniable when you move on. And for me, it was like, okay, I may not get a full storyline and a full arc, but they're going to give me these songs to sing. I'm going to show my ass on every song that you give me. I'm going to build. I'm going to sing my ass off. And that's undeniable. That's not something that you can take away from me. You can't take that away from me. I may not have been the brightest star, but when I got my opportunity to shine, I gave it my all. I gave it my best. And that is something that I always take with me.
Amber Riley spoke to us about her trajectory in Hollywood, the experience of being both a singer and an actor, and how she feels empowered to speak out against injustice. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Opening Act with Amber Riley. You can watch this interview in full, as well as watch exclusive content on lunchtable.com. Create an account and watch all sorts of Shout on Act content, such as Reel It Back and Shout on Act Live. Also, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time.